I'm here to help you walk your kids through technology at a pace that's right for them. About 10% of 12 to 13-year-olds think they might be addicted. And addiction to pornography these days typically leads to a whole lot more damaging content exposure than in the past. And more than half of the kids on the internet often have received a request from a stranger, and half of those responded. And it's important to note that kids are no longer addicted to pornography because they sought it out. It can happen just because they were on an extremely innocent website or video game and a link was sent to them. So even kids as young as 5, girls as well as boys, can be sent these links. So it is important to be vigilant. So the way I broached our kids that we're going to do things a little differently as a family. We're going to have different boundaries placed around technology. Even if the link that you accidentally click on because it looked like an innocent link, if that shows you a traumatic image, then that's something we just can't unsee. You weren't doing anything wrong, but now that has been exposed to you. And these things are sent all the time. And so that's why mom and dad are careful with technology. And we have these boundaries because we believe that even when you're not trying to seek it out online, these things are just so easily sent that we just want to be smart about it. And again, like crossing the highway, just because I trust that my kid knows how to look both ways before crossing the street and even doesn't want to get hit, I'm not going to ask them to cross a highway every day. We also talk about how placing boundaries around technology is not just what's on some of the content of these sites. It's the fact that we want to still engage with other people. We don't want to be on our screens all the time. We want to learn life skills, whether it's an instrument or a sport. We want to engage in the broader world. And then there's always what's best for our family. We want to have time for game night. We want to have time to talk to each other at dinner. So yeah, maybe there's nothing technically wrong with being on your phone right this second, except right this second, I want us to engage as a family. And we do prioritize people over things and people over entertainment and people over technology. There are two kinds of controls they talk about in the financial world. So both are needed. And if you are planning to talk to your kids soon about either not going deep into things like their friends might be right now, or maybe trying to have your kids start to scale back, you need to be prepared as a parent. In addition to watching this video, you want to have some great alternatives ready for them because boredom is hard for them and it's easy to be bored. Why? Because kids don't get to play outside as much anymore. Everyone's scared of everyone and it's hard to find places to play outside. Also, all their other friends are either in sports or some tutoring program, or their friends are on their technology and don't want to get together to play. They'd rather just surf the internet. And so it's way too easy to be bored. So if you have the money, be thinking about sports you can sign them up for, or maybe you make a trip to the library more often so that there's lots of books on hand. There's so many things that we can do to help, and we really need to have all of it in play. So some preventative controls are phones. A lot of them, you have the ability to have the phone power down, or at least certain apps on the phone power down at certain times during the day. So the parent has the password, and we just decide that all phones shut down at 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. and don't come on again until 7 a.m. So that even if my kids were to sneak out of their rooms and go find their phone downstairs to then try and use it, they actually can't because it just won't turn on anyway. A whole bunch of kids do wake up in the middle of the night to go get their phones. One of my kids is in the honors program and all of her classmates were honors kids, right? But they would come to school so tired in the morning, and it's because they would stay up till 3 a.m. And I said to her, their parents let them stay up till 3 a.m. She goes, oh no, mom, they act like they're going to bed. And then once their parents are in bed, they wake up and they're on the computer all night until about 3 a.m. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, mom, but you lock our phones, so I can't do that. so you need to be aware. And as a parent, I think it's better to just have the phones automatically shut down or have passwords on the computer and things like that, because it makes you one step removed from constantly being the bad guy. You can also set most phones to turn off after a certain amount of hours a day. And really, really important one is anytime your kid wants to download an app, it must be electronically approved by you as a parent, free or paid. Either way, you need to approve every single one. So whenever my kids try to download an app, I get a ding on my phone saying, so and so wants to download this app. Do you approve? Yes or no? And that really matters because there's an app you can download that disguises the app TikTok on your phone. So a kid can have TikTok, but parents won't know the kid has TikTok because when they search through the phone, it doesn't say TikTok because of this other app you downloaded that disguises TikTok. But if they can't download apps at all without your permission, you've gone a long way right there in trying to protect your child. Side note on TikTok, I'm not here to say that everything about TikTok is wrong, but there was about 20 reporters that went undercover and signed up as though they were 13. And just within a few weeks, like a third of the links that they were being sent were drug related and pornography related, even though TikTok knew they were 13. And I've told my kids, who for the most part haven't done much with social media, but I've told them if you ever want TikTok or Snapchat or other social media types, if you ever want that, this is how we'll approach it. It'll be on my phone or my computer that's password protected, and you can use it, but only at the dining room table, while I'm in the kitchen cooking and walking by and this type of thing, so that they can connect with their friends. They can be able to talk some of the same talk and lingo, but at the same time, I know that they're relatively safe. One of my kids does have access to Safari, and my other daughter has the exact same phone, but she doesn't. And every now and then she'll ask me, I think I want Safari, Mom. I've earned a lot of trust. Can I have it? And I'll say to her, you have earned trust. I think I'm comfortable giving you Safari now because she's older and she has earned a lot of trust. But I say, your sister who has it, she never asked to bring it upstairs or in the bathroom or anywhere. She doesn't really use it as much as you use your phone. So I say, you often want to take your phone upstairs to draw or to listen to music. And I said, I'm only able to give you that permission often because it doesn't have data and internet access. So yes, I'm willing to trust you more and give you that, but then you need to be willing to not have it in your room as much. What do you want to do? So the choice is more in her hands, but the safety is still there and we can talk about it. Finally, if you're overwhelmed with how to set up controls on phones and things like that, you can Google this information. Help is out there. When it comes to TV and computers, a huge guideline is whenever a kid is on technology, whether it's TV, iPad, phone, computer, if there's access to the internet or potentially damaging content, it's best that it not be in any room where the door can be closed. And it's best that you're able to walk by your child often and check on them. So usually computers and iPhones and things like that are not allowed in my kids' rooms or in the basement or what have you. Occasionally they are because life happens, but then the doors have to be left open. One really great preventative control is when I say to your kids, okay, you really want that game or that TV show, let's watch it together. Let's read the book together. Usually that's about enough for a kid to stop asking for certain things that all their friends were telling them to watch. And then if it's questionable, like a little bit further than you or they would have been comfortable with, but not completely over the edge, then you guys got to talk about things together, all the challenging choices that are out there. If your kids are listening to music all the time or audiobooks all the time, and you just want to sometimes get to hear it, there's a couple ways you can do that. One is you just say to them, hey, I'm in the mood to hear some music, or I'd love to hear a part of your story. Can you take the earbuds out right now? And I'd love to just hear that while I'm doing dishes or working on my computer. I'd love that. Again, checking history, we'll get into that later, but it's not snooping around if your kids know in advance that that's something that as a family we do. And a note here on anime and books. My daughter had a book recommended to her by a librarian. I think she was in 8th grade at the time. So all her friends were reading it and the librarian recommended it. So she came home, asked. I, Googled parent reviews of, which I always do. She knows she has to ask. And when I was reading it, it looked really questionable to me. It was really hard for me to believe that this was a good material. So we reached a compromise. I told her that I would read it. And if I thought it was great, then she could read it. And if I thought it was horrible, I would share with her why I felt it was horrible. And if she still wanted to read it, we would read it together. Anyways, it was the book I Hunt Killers. There's a boy who is trying to hunt down a serial killer, but the serial killer, it's a sexual serial killer. So there are scenes of women freshly killed and tortured. I guess, once she was chained to the ceiling with the blood dripping down on the boy. Um, there are trophies of different parts of the women that were cut off and stored by the killer. Turns out the boy's father is the serial killer, that the father tried to teach the boy at a young age to be a serial killer. So there's often times when the main character, although he's trying to do the right thing and stop a serial killer, there are times when he himself struggles with whether or not he wants to harm and kill the women around him. And at the very end, because I don't mind spoiling this book, at the very end, he actually remembers a childhood memory of he himself killing and torturing his own mother. And that was the book that the librarian recommended to my 8th or ninth grade daughter to read. Do not trust another mother, father, parent's opinion, librarian, teacher. You got to go with your own gut and sometimes look these things up in advance. True story. And when it comes to anime, right there, I have the title of an anime that, quite honestly, although it had maybe one or two scenes that were a little uncomfortable to me, quite honestly, tons of fun, very clean. For anyone in my mind, 9 or 10 or up. I love great shows that are anime. However, there's two things about anime you need to know as a parent. Number one, there's something about them that are so enjoyable that it's kind of easy to get, I'm going to use the word addicted lightly because it's not a like real addiction, but boy, do kids seem to get so into anime that suddenly no other shows are good enough. And they really get upset if you try to take it away, even when the anime shows are clean. So I would say, if possible, I would try to delay your kids getting very into anime just because it's going to be such a power struggle at some point. Because the second thing about anime is, although there is good anime out there, to my knowledge, most of it is on the boundary of maybe not good or clearly on the side of not healthy. Some of the anime that has been recommended to my daughter by peers, the main character guy, when one of his friends who was a girl had been drugged by the villain, right? So now she's laying on the table drugged. He took advantage of that moment to touch her sexually when she wasn't there to stop him. And that was the main character of a show people were recommending to my 8th and ninth grade girl. And personally, I'm not comfortable with that. So, whenever your child wants to watch anime, I really think it's important to research it. And doing a quick Google search is a start, but not always enough, because I have found sometimes the first season of an anime is relatively fine. And so when you look at the reviews, those are parents who are referring to the first season. But what's very, very common is that the seasons get progressively darker of many anime shows. They didn't start out very violent or very sexual, but by season 3 or maybe 2 or 4, it's very sexual or much more dark in other ways. So it's really important. I would recommend, if you do let your child watch an anime show, even if you are comfortable with season 1, each time it's a new season, sit in on the first one, sit in on maybe number 4, and then again at episode 15. Just peek in from time to time. Hopefully your kid isn't watching this in the basement or the bedroom anyways. Hopefully they're at the dining room table with headphones on and you're walking by, or they're in the living room and you can hear the sound while you're cooking. Hopefully that's the way it's happening anyways. But however it's happening in your home, definitely be walking by. And the other names I just threw up there, those are examples of shows that as the seasons progress, the seasons get darker. And so I just wanted you to be aware, if you're a parent that's approved your child to watch season 1 of those, you might want to check in down the road as they do get darker.